Alright, so I was recently sent the ITS Objective Pack Alpha from Corvus Belli, and I thought I'd get to assembling it and showing you what's inside, what the quality of the siocast models are like, so that you can see what you'll be getting if you invest in this pack. Got the pack ready to be assembled. Opening up, obviously everything's kind of as standard that you would expect when you're getting any product from Corvus Belli, in that each of the items are individually wrapped in these plastic items. As you can see, I've actually already done the tech coffins. I used those for a mission earlier, had them assembled quickly, gave them a run through so that I could get a sense as to what they want. But let's actually go through and have a look at what came in this box that I have. So what you can see here, I've got it all laid out for you. I actually have my first ever mist pack from Corvus Belli in this box here. You might be able to notice, the savvy-eyed among you, that we've got four defensive turrets, which is two too many. We're only supposed to have two of those. Then got the 4 tech coffins at the top, 3 objectives on the 40mm base, 3 supply boxes on the 25mm base, and we've got 2 beacons, which you can see there on the right hand side, and then 4 consoles on the 40mm base. I actually didn't have one of the bases for the console. Okay, so in order to work with these, I have used siocast before, I have worked with some siocast models before, and there's kind of like 4 or 5 key pieces of equipment that I like to use in order to do that. I sometimes use these pliers. These are the Army Painter modeling pliers, which are quite useful because they've got a flat side to them and then they've got like a heavily indented side. I have to use these slightly less with siocast than I do with metal models, but they're still worth having on hand anyway. The next piece that I use, and I use this fairly often, is the X-Acto knife. I find this is quite good for removing removing excess elements on flat surfaces. You have to be really careful with these, because if you use them on like an angled surface, or if you're using them in quite a complicated surface, it's easy to take a chunk out of the siocast because it's quite a soft plastic or soft resin. So be careful using this. It's a great tool in most areas. Mine's actually missing the tip, which you'll notice in some videos from having forced it into certain areas, but use a new one of these if you can, and then you'll find it easy to get in some of the more complicated areas. The other tool that I have is obviously super glue. With siocast, just your standard, bog standard super glue actually works quite well. Don't need to overthink that or get anything. Don't get plastic glues. I found that they don't work very well at all. Just your bog standard super glue works exceptionally well. I've then got some really fine sandpaper. Off the top of my head, this is I think a P400, if that's a thing, with grains. I've got 2. This is super fine, possibly too fine, but I generally find it's better to be on the safe side with the coarseness of the sandpaper, and then just use it maybe more than you need to. And then sadly, one of the other, I say sadly, that's unfair, but one of the tools that I find really useful with working with siocast is the Citadel mold line remover. It's got a flat edge in here that's curved, and this is really good for getting over any curved surfaces without taking chunks out, which you'll find you will do if you try and do a curved surface with an X-Acto knife. And then if you use sandpaper, you might find that you just wear a point flat. This is very good because as you can see here, it kind of goes from straight, which is great for straight edges, and then into a curve so that you can use that on curved edges as well. So this is actually one of the best tools I've found for using with siocast. So let's go into some of the models themselves and see what they're like to work with and some of the difficult areas that you might find. We'll start with the F14 defensive turret, or it's F13 defensive turret. We'll go into that. So here are some of the key things that I've noticed straight away. So here's one of the models. You can see it in fine detail. As with any siocast, the detail is exceptionally good. I've noticed the mold line running across the top of the model itself. Most of them seem to have that mold line as well. Obviously at the base, there's a couple of indentations where the mold hasn't quite stuck properly. Those are fairly easy to remove. Underneath the turret brace, or the ammo case itself, there's quite a lot that needs to be fixed in there. From just the little line going like a little bit of excess that just sits underneath the ammo container, to then within the ammo strip itself, and then there's a bit above like the barrels. So in that central area, there's a couple of details that will need to be fixed. When we then go to the beacons, these ones are a lot simpler. On the base, there's quite a bit that needs to be removed. The dome at the bottom, like one of the receivers or whatever that is, that can have some lines, and that's a bit fiddly. So that's where the sandpaper is excellent, because you're doing an irregular curved surface there. So I think it's kind of got like a flat secondary bit and then a third ridge, which using the knives, you're going to take out any of that definition. So using the contour, whatever this is called, the contour tool, to get out most of it, and then relying on the sandpaper to take out some of the edge is quite key. Then there's kind of like that geodesic box at the top. I've noticed that's got some mold lines on it, but luckily they're all pretty much on the flat surfaces, so the X-Acto knife is fine for taking that out. Moving across to the next model, 25mm base, so those are the supply boxes, I was right. So inside the vents, there's kind of like a line around the vents, which you'll see in more detail. That has lost a little bit of its detail, so I'll try and go in with the X-Acto knife, try and clear some of that if I can, but that's gonna be pretty tricky. But yeah, I'll try and get in there with the knife and see what I can do. Then next, as we go to, these are the 40mm objectives. So I thought these were supply boxes because they've got ammunition in them, and so that's why I thought, well, that's got to be the supply box because it's got all the guns and the knives and the grenades and things like that, but clearly wrong. These ones are luckily very simple in design. The side that has the ammunition and the weapons in, on all of mine, the detail was absolutely impeccable, so I didn't need to worry about that at all. Then the base is quite simple. There's actually two parts to this model, which you'll see as I assemble them, in that there's like the main supply box, there's a footing base structure, and then it goes on the actual 40mm base itself. So a lot of the stuff that needed cleaning off was on either the top, which was easy because it was actually quite proud of the model itself, or in that base area. The one thing I did notice is that by using my blunt X-Acto knife, so I'm setting myself for the fact that I was using probably the wrong tool for the job in this case, it actually like splintered the excess off, and it just actually took a bit more of a chunk out than it probably should have done. Had I been using a sharp X-Acto blade, I doubt this would have been a problem. So this is entirely down to me, but just a word of warning, don't use blunt X-Acto knives if you're doing this, because you won't get the edges that you're looking for. It seems obvious, but it's well worth saying because I did it and failed. Kind of one of the last ones to look at. So there's a little bit of detail lost on the top edge on this supply box here. Now there's not, annoyingly there's kind of like two parts to it which you can kind of see. There's supposed to be a bit of detail there. In order to remove this extra bit, I'm gonna have to lose that secondary detail, and that's a bit of a disappointment, but I kind of either have to live with the excess or live with the loss of detail, and it's actually easier because it's only a small detail that I'm losing for me to live with the loss of detail than it would be to live with the excess. So I'm choosing to use the X-Acto blade to clear off the whole of that edge just to make it look like one single edge. It's only going to be obvious when you look at the other three and notice that they've got a bit of an extra stepped detail line that is no longer present, that you'll realize what I've done and that I've made it look worse in a way. One thing I do love, and you'll see that in some of these videos of me assembling the kits, is that siocast is very easy to superglue, which I do appreciate. It doesn't take much and it does it exceptionally quickly. In fact, this one, which I only superglued about 5 minutes ago, is like, it's completely set, which, like, metal doesn't take ages to set, but it's a lot longer and you've got to hold it in place, and then I end up sometimes getting my fingers stuck together because I'm a bit of a klutz. But with this stuff, it's near instant if you're using the right super glue, which again, like I've settled on this, which is a local, like, just hardware no-name brand really, or no, Gorilla Super Glue is a brand that's actually quite good. But you get this in the local supermarket, so it's not like you have to go to a specialist store or anything like that. But I found that that particular one works very well, especially when it's in relatively good quality. I have tried using older super glues and they don't work as well, but again, that's just using the wrong tool for the job. This stuff works almost instantly on all of these siocast models, which is excellent because it means that I can glue them 10 minutes before a game like I did with the tech coffins, and they're good to go. Like these were fantastically ready and robust very quickly. So I'm going to be doing some more siocast models soon, and that excites me, is that I can glue them not long before a game and they're fine. A metal, you know, if you leave it 20 minutes or so, that's fine, but I just find it really annoying holding some of the fiddly bits in place, waiting for it to set, and then prying my fingers off like an arm or anything like that. So that's me analysing and assembling the ITS Objectives Pack Alpha. I'm very pleased that Corvus Belli did create this because these are exceptionally high quality. I do have some standard, or not standard, but some third-party options. So like this F-13 turret, you can see a side-by-side comparison there, which is really good. Battle Kiwi actually make these very well priced, and if you just want like this, because that's the only downside to this, is that you've got to buy the entire box and you might only want defensive turrets or one of the objectives. So if you're going to want individual pieces, then going to people like Battle Kiwi is definitely the way forward. Same with like consoles, they do consoles. A lot of the third-party manufacturers do these sorts of things. But if you want everything, like I do, so I can use the right things for the right mission, then this is definitely the way to go. Have you bought the ITS Objectives Pack? What did you think of the quality of that? What have you seen in the video that you like the look of? Was the siocast quality what you expected? I'm always keen to hear your thoughts, so please jump in the comments and let me know, and I will be back soon with another video.